So the grapes that are under the shade, we pick them for our spring. So that's why we get this nice acidity. The sugar content is only at about 12 bricks when we picked, and and all is fermented in stainless steel because we want to really focus on the freshness and fruitiness of this wine. And the most important thing is that the grapes, they ripen in winter. And in our winter here in Khao Yai, at night, the temperature is around 10 degrees Celsius, which is very cold, very cold for our standard. And during the daytime, only 25. So it's actually more cool climate here rather than warm, like a lot of people would expect it to be in Thailand. So let's taste the wine. Okay. So we get a lot of flowers as well as tropical fruit on the nose, some guava, and also some passion fruit. This wine has 4 grams per liter residual sugar. So we stop the fermentation when there's a little bit of residual sugar left. And that's to have like a nice balance with to complement the acidity, to give a bit of softness to the wine, juiciness, and just a touch of sweetness. And then this wine can go really well with Thai or Asian spicy dishes.
Yes.
If you have to name one Thai food to pair with this, what would it be? You know, mango salad? I don't know.
Pomelo salad, actually.
The pomelo salad, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Pomelo salad or yum som o. So, you know, yum genre of Thai food, which is the spicy salad mix, basically. So,
yeah, what do you have there? What have you got there?
Yeah.
Papaya salad.
What is it?
Papaya salad.
Oh,
Papaya.
How many chilies in there?
We ordered a lot of Thai food just to pair with our wines tonight.
Yes. Yeah. So our second pick would be papaya salad. So basically anything, you know, with acidity and even a touch of sweetness to go with this. And because it's a lighter white wine in itself, so it helps washes down any spiciness on the palate.
Yeah, or like even like tom yum soup or tom kha gai. Yeah, so this kind of like really calms the palate.
Also about fruit pairing. You guys, some of you might know the Hong Kong International Wine and Spirits competition, right? That they have, you know, the wine competition as well as they have the awards for food and wine matching. So this one actually won a trophy. So best out of the bunch, a trophy for best pairing with chutoro sashimi, because I think because of the acidity and the lightness of the wine itself really helps to cut through the fattiness of the tuna, but not disturb the actual flavor. So this one got a trophy, by the way.
Yay.
Yay. And one more last question I see on my chat is they're asking is how does this wine get such flowery taste? You know, if you're blind somebody, this could come out as a Sauvignon Blanc. You know, where does this come? Where do they get the flowery smell from? Or the aroma from? Sorry, the soil or
Yeah. So it's I think it's the soil, it's the limestone, and also the climate, because we already talked about how it's quite cool here, and also with the fermentation itself, I do what's called stabilization. So before, when we press the juice, we do a bit of skin contact. So let's go back. Rewind back to the beginning. So we pick our grapes, we hand pick everything. We bring the grapes to the winery, we destem, we crush, and we do a little bit of skin contact 2 to 3 hours, no more. And then we press. And after we get the juice, we drop the temperature down to 10 degrees, so quite cool. And we keep the juice with the juice lees for about 4 to 5 days. And we stir that up every day, 4 to 5 days. And that's to get more like the aroma from the broken down skin that's left in the juice. And then we settle the juice really well. So the juice is really clean. The turbidity is only around like 50 NTU, which is quite low. So we ferment at low turbidity. So we get a lot of like crispness, cleanness in this wine. Just really like clear, tropical, floral, cold fermentation, and a little bit of butternage after the fermentation is done, but only on fine lees. So I don't keep the thick gross lees. And yeah, and it's just like a more reductive winemaking that gets this wine quite aromatic.
Okay, last question before we move on. Otherwise, we'll be running out of time. Okay, how do you compare your Chenin with the classic Loirs?
I would say our Chenin is more like vibrant compared to most of the classic Loire Chenin, and it has no oak. This one, so just different style.
Okay. Okay, we can ask more questions later. Let's move on to the Viognier. All right.
So moving on to the next wine, we have the same vintage, 2009 GranMonte Viognier. This is made from 100% Viognier. And what's so special about this is that we are the only grower of Viognier in Thailand. I brought this grape variety in while I was studying in Australia. So I smuggled a few cuttings in my suitcase when I came back for summer holidays. And we experimented with the Viognier. It turns out to grow quite well. And from our experimental block, we expand into bigger blocks of Viognier. And plus, it's like one of my favorite varieties as well. So I really wanted to grow it and make it work. So far, we're still the only grower of Viognier in Thailand. And so this is grown at the same location as the Chenin. So we still have clay, a lot of clay in our soil, limestone. We pick the grapes at around 22, 23 bricks, and we do like similar process. So we destem, we crush, 3 hours skin contact roughly, and then we press. But what's really special during the fermentation process is that I use wild yeast. So it's partially wild fermented. And the wild yeast that I chose, it's actually isolated from our vineyard. We did this about 5 years ago. So we collect grape bunches from our vineyard aseptically. And in our micro lab, we select the yeast, let's say. And we found interestingly, we found about 6 to 7 different yeast in our vineyard. And we do like small fermentations with them. And after that, sensory evaluation. And then I picked only 3 best yeast and keep them in our stock for like some funky wines that we want to do. So Viognier was the first wine that we used wild yeast. And all the Viognier is fermented in French oak barrels, but old French oak puncheons actually. So 500 liters, because I don't want too much oak influence on the Viognier.
Again, it's very flowery. Yeah, so it's like again, it's something that I would say it smells to me like a Ricola, like a refreshing, like a mint. Yeah.
Flowers in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And again, is it the soil influence that results in this? Because Viognier doesn't typically smell like that. Typically is and this Viognier is a little bit oily, like Riesling, right? I mean, if somebody was applying me, I'll say that, oh, you know, I could call this Riesling off the site. But of course, the nose is terribly different. Yeah, so maybe a question is, Viognier, its aroma, is it again from the soil or somewhere else?
I think it's the soil in combination with the climate and also the clone, because you can have different clones of Viognier with completely different characters, and with the Viognier, it's a variety that can have uneven ripening. It's famous for uneven ripeness. So what we actually do in the vineyard, we go through the vineyard twice. So we actually select only the ripe bunches. And while doing it that way, we don't have at the same time the really ripe bunches, really high sugar, and also like phenolics. And then we have the underripe bunches. So we get like the very nice ripeness with these two sorting in our vineyard, and yeah, so cold fermentation as well, but in the barrel. So I think that's how we achieve like this kind of floralness. But I do see a little bit of like apricot, yeah, but more like fresh apricot, not really dry, and just like a hint of white pepper, just very little, and that kind of typical lusciousness of Viognier.
One question in the chat from Mr. Jazz. Viognier and Condrieu are very similar. How do you set your wines apart from these Northern Rhone styles?
I would say ours is definitely much more like elegant. It's not as like round and intense. So yeah, ours is like kind of more elegant, light, very, very approachable. And sometimes I even see like a bit of orange blossom in our Viognier.
The one last question that I received, food pairing, again, Viognier, what does it go with?
Yeah, so food pairing with the Viognier, we like to pair with something that has some coconut base. Like we have this, tom kha gai. It's a soup that has coconut, a little bit of coconut in it. We can also pair it with wing bean salad. It's a kind of spicy salad with some coconut milk in it. Yeah.
Very cool.
Oh, honeysuckle, yes.
Yeah.
Honeysuckle.
Yeah. Okay, I think we can move on to the last white first, and then we can say something in between before. So while it's pouring, just to share with you guys, interesting fact, while you guys are adjusting, Thai wines are really expensive in Thailand. In fact, alcohol is really expensive in Thailand. The tax system is quite ridiculous. I actually did a slide on that. So if anybody wants to know how the tax is done, I can share. But yeah, it is, I can't even describe it, but yeah, it's ridiculously expensive. And Mimi, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not allowed to advertise alcohol, right? In Thailand.
We are not allowed to advertise alcohol. So any kind of public communication that they as in, people in charge who can fine you or arrest you, that they define as a communication that entices people to drink, is not allowed. It's actually a really kind of like a really undefined law, very unclear where the boundaries are, what is enticing. It actually is different from person to person, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the reason why we've never done virtual tasting before during
Thailand.
COVID, like in Thailand for the Thai audience. We haven't done that because of this reason.
Yeah, so you can get into you can get in trouble for any kind of, or you can't be on billboards, you can't be on magazines and things like that. You can't clearly show your product. Like, I can't be like this and say, oh, wine tastes good. You're not allowed to do that. There's some room for educational purposes, but sometimes some people do it educationally and they still get fined for making it too enticing. It's a really unfair and unequally applied laws. The enforcement obviously is harsher on the small people who don't have the means to fight. And the big businesses, like the really big beers in Thailand, are just different. But anyway, the whole thing is that we cannot do advertising in any meaningful way in Thailand.
Don't worry, we will do the advertisement for you over here. Okay, moving on to the Verdelho.
So the Verdelho, this is 2019 vintage as well, and it is made from 100% Verdelho. Again, like another special variety for us because we are the only grower of this variety in Thailand. So I brought this back from Australia along with the Viognier and with our Durif actually. And with the Verdelho, it's we get a lot of tropical characters, a bit of gooseberry as well. Yep, some like star fruit, a little bit of passion fruit. And this happens when we have a really cool year. We get more of the cool climate characters coming through. On some warm years, like the Verdelho can show higher alcohol level and more ripe fruit like ripe papaya, pink guava, and more white pepper. And all fermented in stainless steel because we want to show the fruitiness of this wine. And actually the Verdelho, we get flavor ripeness when we reach around 23 to 24 bricks. So yes, we pick around that bricks level, and everything is fermented in stainless steel with a little bit of batonnage at the end of the fermentation before we bottle this wine. So food pairing
right away.
Should we go to food pairing?
Well, if you guys got any questions first. If it's to be food pairing, personally, I would recommend people drinking this by itself. I think it's a very enjoyable wine by itself. It's got many complexities that you really want to take your time to go through. But if it's with food, honestly, I'd be happy with any like seafood.
Yeah. Or like how we have the sea bass fried and topped with like mango, like spicy mango,
like spicy mango mix,
shaved mango.
Yeah,
that goes really well.
Okay, so maybe in this juncture, I'll just share another interesting tidbit for the Thai wine industry. As you know, if you have your bottles with you, there are various wine laws that are involved in the bottling, in the labeling of the Thai wines. Of various wines. For example, in South Africa, for instance, if you want to put the varietal as Viognier, you have to have at least 85%, right? 85% of it has to be Viognier before you can put the word Viognier on it. So I learned, correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, I learned that for Thailand, there are actually not much laws or no laws. It's just an association governing it. And it's really interesting how this came about. So maybe you guys, ladies, can elaborate a little bit on this. Yeah.
Yeah, because in Thailand there's no wine law. We have the excise department, and they only have like a few requirements and like some lab analysis you have to do. So that's why like a group of grape growers and winemakers in Thailand, we started the Thai Wine Association in 2004, basically to regulate ourselves. So I was I am still the technical advisor. So I drafted our charter using the European wine laws and also some information from Australia. So just to make it as international as possible. And for the Taiwan Association or TWA, we would go inspect the vineyards and wineries of the members every year, kind of share experience and knowledge on the technical side as well as on the marketing side. Yeah, so we regulate ourselves, and a lot of newer wine regions, they kind of like quite surprised that we work together. Like the producers, we work together and enforcing these regulations on ourselves, which is a good thing.
Yeah. But with what, we take the good bits from the European laws. We don't limit ourselves in terms of varieties because we understand that Thailand is like a kind of like a new frontier, and it's a big opportunity to do R&D, to do experimentations, and it's like the Wild West. So we definitely want to keep experimenting and coming up with new varieties. So looking at France or all other European countries with really strict laws of which varieties can be grown where, we don't want to do that. So we keep this part open, but things that are actual standards in terms of viticulture and winemaking, to keep things for health and safety. Is it like a kind of like the scientific baseline for the things that we do? That one needs to be quite strict because it's from us to the consumer. And
you're actually Khao Yai wine is actually a GI, a geographical indication. So Taiwan Association and us, we registered it about 4 years, around 4 years ago as a GI for wine.
Great, thank you. Okay, one more question about these 3 whites. For the good people of Laos, how's the local reception and any crowd favorites among them? Yeah.
Among take a guess. Which one would be the bestseller amongst the people who come to visit us at the vineyard?
Spring Chenin Blanc, that's for me. I'm not sure about the rest.
It's actually a trick question. Spring Chenin Blanc isn't sold at the vineyard. It's actually, I redirected it to hotels and restaurants in Bangkok Mall because there's a huge demand from those people. So that's a B2B kind of thing. But B2C at the vineyard, tourists come visit, taste all our wines. The Verdelho actually sells best. I think once people get to try at least the whites that are available, Verdelho, it might not be the best known in terms of name. It's even more complex than what people are used to in terms of white, but that's what makes it feel so special. And I think like the tropical characters really come out. We tell them what the characters are, and they kind of like power suggestion. So the characters really come out, and people associate it with the location. So good memory, good taste, and they just bring it home. So I think that's why it sells best. Yeah.
Okay, last question. Will you guys prefer to blend the wines then, or grow single varietal, and why so?
We actually do both. So we have more than 20 wines on our portfolio. And it's driving Mimi crazy because whatever I felt like making, I just made it. And after it's bottled, like, oh, Mimi, go sell this. So actually we have a single varietal Chenin. And our Cremant, our sparkling wine, is 100% Chenin. But we used to make a Chenin Viognier blend, which kind of like we discontinued it after a while because we have a single varietal Viognier. But for the reds, we do single varietal as well as blends too for our Syrah, for our Cabernet Sauvignon. So we try to do both.
Okay, Colin, I'll hold your question a little bit while we go do the rates, and then we can do this feedback information, and I think it will be more holistic answer to that. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the rates. And while we are pouring the rates, just to fill in another interesting tidbit is the winery is all about local empowerment. They create a lot of jobs in the winery as well, in the Asoke Valley. I think that's right. I'm not sure if I describe it correct. So it's really a great venture, I'll put it that way. Yeah. And off we go to the Heritage Syrah, the first rate for the night.
Okay, so we have our 2018 Heritage Syrah, which is 100% Syrah. And so same location. So we have a lot of red clay, a lot of limestone here. So this is made from our 17-year-old vines. Almost old vines, but because we only started 20, 21, 22 years ago, so they're still fairly young. And they're on rootstock, which is called kuduk. And then we do extended. We do cold maceration in the winery. No, actually, let's go back again. So when we pick the grapes, we destem. We don't crush the berries. For all our reds, we don't crush. And we do sorting with a machine that's called the Mistral. And then we pump whole berries into the fermentation tanks. And with the pumping, we get a little bit of the berries crushed as well, but also whole berries still remain in the tanks. And then we drop the temperature down to 10 to 15 degrees for about 3 to 4 days to do extended maceration. And the result that we get from this extended maceration is like really like juicy red fruits, and a little bit of like spiciness that comes through. And after the fermentation, which we ferment in stainless steel, we do extended maceration for about 2 to 3 weeks, so not very long. And then we drain the wine out and we press. But I like to keep most of our pressings actually, because the pressings add a lot of earthiness, a little bit of leather to the wine. And actually really good quality pressing, so I never got rid of them. So so the character that we get in the heritage. Oh, let's talk about oak first. I forgot. We age this wine 12 months in French oak puncheons, 2nd and 3rd year oak, because I don't want too much oak to overpower the wine. Yeah. So in this wine we can get a plum, but mostly we get like more like berries as well. Cherries, some dry spices, and licorice in this wine. And let's taste. It is a young wine, but it's actually really mouth-filling. It's round with still nice acidity. That's because of our climate during the ripening period. And it's not too much tannins in this wine. So a bit of tannins, that's kind of like fine. And you can enjoy this wine now, or you can age it a few more years too.
There's a lot of typical response from this wine. It's like, hey, is there a wine fault in this wine? Because there's a really, I would say, southern road kind of dirt or earth smell to this. Yeah. So is it intentional? Should they wait a while before drinking, or how should it be appreciated? Yeah.
I think it just needs like not decanting. You just need to open it for an hour or so. But that's really the character of our Syrah here. on clay and on limestone. We do get a bit of like wet soil, a little bit earthiness that really comes through on our Syrah, and actually on the Durif as well. You don't see it so much in the Cabernet Sauvignon. Yeah, but not a fault for sure.
Okay, now let's get back to Colin's question. Have you had any feedback from the traditional winemakers from the old world, and what were their views? Yeah.
Well, firstly, I think they're surprised that we're growing grapes and make wine here. And we used to take our wines to the Premier, and also to what's that one in Germany?
Oh,
Pro
Wine.
Wine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also to Vinexpo, and yeah, we had some like interest from drinkers as well as winemakers, and we get so many visits from winemakers around the world, because when they're holidaying in Thailand, of course they have to Google wine in Thailand, and then they contact us and they come to visit, and I think most of the time it's like a good surprise. Good surprise for them, and a lot of them actually they're surprised to see how cool it gets here in the winter time. Like all the mountains will be brown, dry, it's windy, it's cold, like not something they see in Phuket, something like that. So yeah, but in terms of the wine, I think they happily
especially
surprised.
the winemaker types, like if you say how do French people react to our wines, feedback, all kinds of feedback. But if it's actual winemakers, people in the industry who are already open to learning new things, they're like pumped to learn about us. And we've gone to Premier, to Saint-Emilion, and people there, both drinkers and winemakers and negotiants and all those people, for them we are a breath of fresh air, because our style is just so different, and they learn new things. And I think that excitement plus the actual quality of our wine really brings them into.
We also have lots of winemakers from Europe like wanting to intern with us.
Yes.
And we do accept like the ones that we know we have some connection with, and they really want to see how we make tropical wine here, because it's a condition that they're going to face in a few years' time with climate change, like warmer temperature, more rainfall, higher humidity. They're seeing diseases they've never seen before. So we have a lot of interest of viticulturists and winemakers who come here.
So can we apply to be interns?
I will think about it.
All right, great. Okay, for the heritage, is there
any questions about the heritage?
Food pairing.
Okay, food pairing first. This one, because while it's got tannins, it's not too much of a tannin, not too high. I actually would pair with, the classic Thai grills, like chicken or pork or beef, but with the gel sauce. Do you guys know gel sauce? Oh, okay. It's like help me think. It's fish sauce, chili flakes, a bit of lime.
Yeah, lime.
And
Roast rice.
Roasted uncooked rice, but roasted in a pan a little bit. So it's got the
like smokiness.
The smoky smell. That's the sauce. So any the classic Thai grill, but dipped in this sauce with this. It's actually a very, very good combination. And the spiciness works completely fine with this level of tannin.
Okay, one last question before I go to the Asoke. How is climate change affecting grape growing, and how is GranMonte adapting?
Oh, hi. Okay. So climate change, with us in tropical regions, we don't see so much effect on climate change. There's no climate extreme in the tropics. So in temperate regions, with climate change, you get flood, you get frost, you get hail. But actually in tropical regions, like the climate is quite stable.
Consistent. Yeah.
Yes. We may see a little bit of shift in the rain pattern, but that's why we have we bring technology in to help me manage the vineyard. So we have microclimate monitoring systems. So we have all these stations in the vineyard monitoring like humidity, rainfall, temperature, and we collect all this data for over 10 years. And I can actually map or predict what the weather is going to be like for the next season, so we can plan pruning or other work in the vineyard accordingly. So yeah, that's how we adapt to changes that could occur. So we have a pattern of like weather pattern that we can look at.
Yep. So for those who are disbelievers for automation and data, start collecting and start automating. That's all I can say. Yeah. Okay. So all right, let's move on to the last one, which is the flagship red of the winery, which is the Asoke Syrah. And I believe this is the wine that put GranMonte on the wine map of the world, right? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so we have 2018 Asoke. Asoke, actually, it's not the Asoke station in Bangkok. Asoke has many meanings. It can also be a person's name, but the translation, like a direct translation, it means without unhappiness. And we have a tree here called Asoke tree that's grown in our like
the valley,
in the valley, and there are like hundreds of them, and they have like a big orange flower. So it's something really unique to this area. So that's why we want to name our icon wine Asoke. And Asoke is a blend of 60% Cabernet Sauvignon and 40% Syrah, all from our oldest vines. And actually the Cabernet Sauvignon, we have 3 different blocks here: French clone and Australian clone, which is like a Coonawarra clone. So both of them go into this blend. And the Syrah from our old vines that are on their own roots. And talking about own roots, something really interesting is that in tropical climates, we don't have phylloxera. And that's because we don't have the winter, like really cold winter temperatures for the phylloxera to complete its life cycle. So that's really like one of the plus thing about growing grapes in the tropics. No phylloxera. So we don't really need to use rootstocks. If the variety on their own roots already grow well, we just don't need rootstocks. Maybe for like a more difficult site, like on a hillside, really rocky, a lot of lime in the soil, that's when we use rootstock. So, and the Cabernet, we're the only grower of Cabernet Sauvignon again in Thailand. And this wine is really limited. Like I only make 2,000, a little bit over 2,000 bottles a year. And in the winery, we destem, we don't crush the grapes. And actually without pump, we take the Cabernet berries and put them into barrels. So we have old French oak barrels that we open one top, and we put the berries inside, and then we do the fermentation in there, including cold maceration and extended maceration in those barrels. And that's for to get a lot of integration. You work with your hands, so we actually plunge with our hands inside those barrels. So we can manage the cap really well that way. And so integration with oak, and also oxygen for the yeast to work nicely. And Yes. So yeah, and then aging, and after we press, then aging is 18 months. So it's the longest of all of our wines in only French oak barrels for this vintage, and we only use about 25% new oak, and the rest is second year oak. Because again, I think our wines we don't want them to be over oaked at all. Okay, so on the nose, we get your really like classic Cabernet characters coming through, like capsicum, a little bit of like black currant, and plum. And we get that kind of like juicy middle palate that comes from the Syrah, and dry spices.
How long can you keep this wine for?
Normally, we age our Asoke in the we bottle age for a couple of years before we release it, and then after we release it, we recommend, or you can keep it for like actually like
around 10 a bit more.
Yeah, 10 years, and it's actually quite an elegant red wine. It really shows a lot of cool climate characters in this. It's not big, yeah, but definitely like very fine tannins.
Okay, question in the chat. Yeah, there's other wineries such as PB. I understand PB is owned by, is it Singha or Chang Beer, right? The same guys.
Oh, I think how would you put it? The owner is one of the senior family members of Singha Beer, but it's not a Singha property properly. It's just his own thing. But obviously, people connected with Singha because of he's the Singha guy.
Yeah, I think there are many differences in the philosophy of how we grow grapes and make wine. I think it's just different influence as well, because I think theirs is more German influence, and ours is more freestyle.
Yeah, we're really unbound by styles or conventions.
Yeah. Yeah, and the varieties are different too. I think that like they might have some like Dornfelder or some other varieties, and different style of wines, sure.
Yeah, the major difference would be philosophy and approaches to winemaking, viticulture too.
Again, a question on food pairing on this.
Oh, food pairing. What would be this?
Actually,
we're having so many things.
I like pairing this with green curry, but that's not too spicy, because when you have the green chili that you make the green curry paste with, the capsicum in this wine actually complements really well with the green curry.
Yes. Actually, if you guys, this is a really esoteric green curry knowledge, but if you go to like a really traditional Thai restaurant, or restaurants that boast traditional recipes, green curry with the actual like chili, like the chili fruit in it, that green also with the stem still on the chili. That's the right kind of greenness.
Oh,
that would really apply to it.
Stemmy. So like
the
stemmy.
stemmy. That's what gives that's what's you matching it with this Asoke. So you have to be able to find an authentic green curry, Thai green curry with a chili with a stem.
Well, don't think you can find that in Singapore, but okay. There's one more question I have on the chat, is that for the reds, do you model it with some varieties, or is it something just your own experiment? Nikki, that's a question for you. Do you experiment it and grow it, or do you have some vision in mind on what you want to achieve, the style that you want, or you just let nature take its course for it? Yeah, I think that's a question.
Right, for the reds, I think we just want to show the best characters that our grapes can give, And that's why we never do like a really overripe or overripe harvest of our Syrah. I don't wait until the berries like shrivel, because if you do that, then you lose the freshness, you lose the acidity, and it just loses its character. So I think like for our reds, it's I never set like a style or of like the red that I wanted to make. It's really just experimenting and seeing what is best. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, basically, okay. Our philosophy, main thing when it comes to winemaking, choosing what methods for winemaking, it will be whatever is best, whatever helps to express the characteristics of the grapes the best.
Yeah, there you go.
So, with that in mind, first we get the grapes, and then we figure out what would be, the best processes to use. That's not always easy, and not always, I wouldn't know in advance what we're gonna get. So marketing really has to be on the fly. But yeah, it's so basically, we're as it's been mentioned before, we're unbound by convention or any kind of fixed style. And having the actual knowledge in viticulture and winemaking, and having the foundational academic knowledge on that, then you're able to adapt to new styles or learn from new places and bring it to use here. And we're never thrown off by the grapes that we get. It's always, a new challenge. And with applied knowledge, then we can, start any new style that we want, basically. Yeah.